Hey everyone, my name is Milton, working under Brittany as my mentor, presenting from Toronto, and my research topic is on semantic memory. So someone recently asked me, hey Milton, tell us a story. I froze. It took me around 10 minutes to actually come up with a response. However, if someone asked me, what lightsaber form does Mace Windu use from Star Wars, I'd be able to answer Vapad immediately. And the reason I tell you this is because I recently thought that memory was just one broad concept, even though it actually has many different types, each of which uses many different brain regions. And this is what got me interested in the topic of memory. So the two types of memory I just referenced were semantic memory, which is concepts, facts, and ideas, and episodic memory, which is past experiences and events. So during my review of the literature, I found that episodic memory is well mapped. There's regions like the medial temporal lobe and the hippocampus that encode it. However, I found that there was less information on semantic memory, which encouraged me to do a bit more digging and to actually conduct this research project on semantic memory. So there's two theories that explain how semantic memory is encoded. The first states that episodic and semantic memory use the same brain networks, and they both involve the hippocampus and medial temporal lobes. On the other hand, some people believe that the hippocampus is not involved at all, and that semantic memory does not involve either the hippocampus or the temporal lobe, and it's just located across different regions in the neocortex. So in my thesis, I actually end up supporting the idea that semantic memory and episodic memory use similar neural networks. However, I also elaborate on that by showing that semantic memory and episodic memory also have some differences in their neural substrates. So specifically, my aim and thesis is to elucidate a better understanding of which brain regions are used to encode semantic memory, ultimately supporting the view that semantic memory is widely distributed across multiple brain regions, rather than being localized to specific regions such as the medial temporal lobes. So briefly going over my methods. So I took two neuroimaging databases, NeuroQuery and NeuroSynth. I then used Python to take the data from these databases to generate activation maps and difference maps for the concepts of memory, episodic memory, and semantic memory. So here on these slides, I have specific examples of coordinates that I found incredibly interesting. So first here is semantic memory activation. So it's important to note that these maps are different because NeuroSynth uses past data to just generate these maps. However, NeuroQuery is a predictive model that takes past data, but also uses it to predict activation, meaning there could be some differences. However, we do see some commonalities in the occipital lobe here. We also see some commonalities in the left temporal lobe, as well as the inferior prefrontal cortex. So there are some similarities. However, for the neurosynth, which takes past data, we see some disparate like splotches of red, which shows that some more data needs to be done in order to determine which brain regions are actually involved in semantic memory. So yeah, more research has to be done. So we also have this coordinate showing the hippocampus, and this does support the idea that episodic and semantic memory use similar neural networks because they both involve the hippocampus. However, the difference map actually tells a different story. We see that in the blue and cyan regions, which represent stronger episodic activation, that there is the medial and the hippocampal regions. Um, we see that there's a strong activation, which could mean that episodic memory is stronger than semantic memory in that region. That semantic memory does have activation there, except it's not as strong. There's also some activations in other areas, so it's more distributed, it's more broad. Also, I have this idea emphasized in the difference map between memory and semantic memory, where areas such as the fusiform gyrus, frontal cortex, and the lateral temporal lobe have activation, and this is not included in the maps for episodic memory. I go more in depth into this during my actual paper. So going over a few limitations. So first, the main limitation of fMRI, which is what used to generate these maps, is that it can only affect mass activity in the brain and cannot detect underlying changes at the neuronal level. Additionally, the use of meta-analysis tools may have some weaknesses. There may not be wide enough literature, which can lead to publication bias or underrepresentation of these niche ideas. So in the end, we recommend for more primary controlled research to be done on the topic in order to truly comprehend how semantic memory is like encoded and stored. And so, yeah. That's it for today. Thank you so much for listening and have a great rest of your day.